Good morning. It is September 6th, 2011, and it is the start of the new work week, first full week of September. And we are starting off on a very wet note. As you can see, we have showers and embedded thunderstorms, heavy downpours, all the way from the Tennessee River Valley through the northern Mid-Atlantic and into southern portions of New England. This rainfall will not be ending anytime soon. Actually, it will be continuing all the way until Thursday afternoon, leading to a significant threat for flash flooding throughout the northern Mid-Atlantic, especially for portions of northern New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania, where the river basins in these areas are already significantly stressed. So what's causing all this rainfall? Well, when we look at the Severe Prediction Center analysis, you can see there's a lot of red here. Now what this red is basically the moisture transport, the transport of moisture at 850 millibars from the Gulf of Mexico northward up the east coast. And what this is the remnants of Tropical Storm Lee interacting with a deep trough developing over the Mississippi River Valley, which I'll show in the water vapor in just a minute. So what we're dealing with here is an upper level feature with plenty of tropical moisture drifting to the north towards the Ohio River Valley, and as a result, all the moisture around the Gulf of Mexico up through the portions of tropical Atlantic around the Bahamas is being transported up the east coast through the northern Mid-Atlantic, producing periods of rainfall. And some of this rainfall will be rather heavy, and some of the embedded thunderstorms in this rainfall will actually produce some strong wind gusts. So watch out for 10 to 20 mile per hour wind sustained and some of the heavier rainfall with wind gusts up to 35, possibly even as high as 40 miles per hour in some rare cases. So what is causing all of this? Well, first of all, let me just jump here. We'll get to Hurricane Katia in just a moment. I want to show a water vapor satellite picture first. Notice this right here. You see this? This is tremendously dry air, which is great news for Louisiana because they could use it. But what this is showing us here is that there is tremendous sinking air over portions of the western Gulf of Mexico. Well, that corresponds to strong ascent or rising air over much of the east coast moving into Ohio River Valley. See, for every area of sinking motion, there has to be a corresponding rising motion. And that rising motion is happening ahead of this upper level low that is developing. And the position of this upper level low is extremely important because it's going to have a direct impact on the track of Hurricane Katia. Now, Hurricane Katia, as of yesterday, in fact, was still a threat, although a diminishing threat for the East Coast. But now, because our upper level low is starting to develop a little bit further to the north and west towards the Ohio River Valley, well, that's going to lead the potential for this disturbance right here to drop down through the eastern Great Lakes and kick Katia out into the Atlantic with no significant direct impacts. However, the New Jersey coastline and parts of southern Long Island will deal with enhanced wave heights, very strong surf, a significant threat for strong, what is it called? Riptides. There we go. Strong riptides and of course windy conditions. So if you do want to go down to the shore and you have some sort of drive to go surfing in these waves, use extreme caution because these riptides, they're going to be pretty powerful, and before you know it, you are dragged out into the Atlantic without much of an ability to get back. It could kill you. So please stay out of the water while Katia is moving towards the northern Mid-Atlantic, towards the northern Mid-Atlantic coastal waters on Thursday night and Friday. So let's take a quick look at Katia right now, and you can see it's actually pretty impressive. Let's zoom in on Katia, and you can see that there's plenty of deep convection developing around the low-level center, and it is intensifying. It is a Category 3 hurricane. It's going through an eye wall replacement process right now, which is starting to come to an end. And I expect the eye to become very clearly visible in the next few hours on the visible and infrared satellite pictures. I would not be surprised if Katia reaches a Category 4 strength hurricane, but luckily, as I'm showing, Katia will remain over the western Atlantic and move towards the northern Atlantic by this weekend with no direct impacts on the East Coast. However, there is more trouble out there. Keep an eye on this disturbance right here, which should become a tropical depression in the next 24 hours. This disturbance will be able to track in a similar track, very much similar to Hurricane Irene, as far as reaching the portions of the Bahamas and the coastal waters through the north of Hispaniola. Whether it moves up the coast or stays out in the Atlantic is still very much unknown. But one of the factors that will control the track of this disturbance later on next week will be the interaction of this disturbance that is developing in the Bay of Campeche. This disturbance is also starting to develop with a low-level circulation, and many of the models are picking up this disturbance to track towards the central and eastern Gulf Coast as either a tropical storm or hurricane. Now, this disturbance, once it moves into the southeast, would eventually move up the east coast as a heavy rainfall event, but also would enhance a trough over the east for next weekend, which would have an impact on this disturbance. So we're going to keep an eye on all of these disturbances. Obviously a very active period in the tropical Atlantic. Of course, it really shouldn't be much of a surprise, as myself and many other organizations, including NOAA, was warning that this tropical season is going to be very active anyway. So what can we expect for the rest of the week? Well, the European model guidance continues to show us a continuous stream of moisture at 850 millibars and 500 millibars, 850 millibars, driving moisture up the east coast, and that's going to produce a continued period of heavy rainfall for the region. I think the heaviest rainfall is going to be tonight on through Wednesday and into Thursday morning for much of the northern mid-Atlantic. Unfortunately, that's going to create some problems with river flooding and enhanced stream flooding and also urban flooding. This is not what the northern mid-Atlantic needs right now. Unfortunately, we're going to see this quite often, I think, through the fall. Now, one interesting factor here is that on Thursday night, here's Katia. It's moving towards the north. It won't reach the coast at all, as I was explaining. But notice the dry air here. See this purple and this white? Dry air is developing along the coast, and that is actually going to lead to some suppression of this rainfall and give the northern mid-Atlantic a bit of a break on Thursday night through Friday as Katia parallels the coast. And as a result, I think Friday is going to be the best day of the next 7 days, with clearing skies, relatively moderate humidity, and temperatures near normal. But the key there is that it should be dry. So at the very least on Friday we get one dry day out of this forecast period. Then as this disturbance moves back towards the east coast and starts to collapse, and a stronger disturbance approaches from the Great Lakes and from Canada, we end up with another threat for scattered showers for this weekend. So we're looking at a very wet forecast, unfortunately, with more rainfall on the way. And when we go further out into the forecast period, you can see just an additional pattern where we continue to have to deal with these tropical disturbances moving towards the Gulf Coast. So it is going to be a very active weather pattern, to say the least. We're going to have to keep an eye on this disturbance right here for the weekend and how it moves up the coast for additional rainfall next week. So that's the forecast for today. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Thank you for trusting in NYNJPA Weather as your severe weather source for the northern mid-Atlantic. Stay safe out there, and if you live anywhere near the Raritan, Passaic, or Delaware River valleys, take precautions for river flooding. Have a good day.